Well, it's top of the morning to you, and it's top of the morning to everybody who's online. Welcome to my mortgage live stream. Hope you're well. Hope you're enjoying your August. It's bank holiday next Monday, so no live stream next week, but because it's bank holiday. Well, only here in England and Wales, apparently. It's not in Scotland or those different time, different countries. It's just the way it is, isn't it? So I hope you're well. Hope you're all good. Yeah, all is fine here. Looking forward to a good autumn. Although things are changing, aren't they, in the marketplace? Things are moving in different directions. We've got a new party leader coming, new PM, of course. We've got this talk of the downturn. Now, often, of course, just talk of a downturn is enough to create the downturn, like a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? You get the Bank of England telling us we've got this like major recession, and of course, people then start to tighten their belts voluntarily, which causes the downturn. We've got the gas issue and the electricity issue in the autumn as well. So lots happening. You've got to, in the mortgage market, financial advisor marketplace, wherever you are in the professional services, you've got to keep yourself attuned to what's happening, and you've probably got to make a few changes. You can't just like cruise along as you are, expecting the phone to ring and email inquiries that you've had in the last couple of years. That ain't gonna happen. So you've got to move forward different directions. Got a couple of ideas for you later on in my live stream. Hey, let's go online, shall we? Because we should. And keep you entertained for the next sort of 15 to 20 minutes. Now, got a new product on the marketplace for you, which is an addendum, if you like, to your CMAT 1. Remember, if you're studying CMAT 1, you've got to know about this stuff. If you're not and you've passed it, you've got to do CPD. You've got to keep up to date. You can't just like do your exam and forget about it forever, because CMAT was so useless and rubbish, it's not connected. You've got to keep yourself up to date with what's happening in the marketplace. So I've got a new update for you, which we're going to go into right now. For this one, I'm going to head over to the whiteboard. So I'll see you over there in a second, shall we? Ta-da! Welcome. Okay, let's talk about a new pension product, actually, that's been talked about this year and has finally got the go-ahead. I think it's quite exciting, actually. And again, you need to know about this. And it's called a collective defined contribution scheme, or CDC, as they like to call things. Typical, isn't it? Pension industry. Make something complicated. Make it sound like really complicated with an acronym. And we're laughing, aren't we? Again, the Consumer Duty hasn't quite like hit them yet, because they're still obviously wanting financial advisors to make lots of fees from all this advice that they give, because they make things complex. Anyway, enough of that. Let's put a title up for you, because we need to do that. So this is called collective. So the phrase itself is quite important, actually, collective. Now, when you talk about collective, it generally means everybody's chipping in to one fund. We're talking about pensions here, aren't we? Everyone's chipping into one fund, which of course allows people to pool their resources. So collective is a big one. Defined contribution. Now that's let's just write that first. A contribution scheme. Now that's a pension terminology that we need to be aware of course. And we're talking about occupational pensions. Now we've got a big tree at the bottom of our garden, and in the big tree there's all sorts of wildlife that live there, which is brilliant. But we've got this grey squirrel who comes and goes each year and produces offspring and collects his acorns and all that kind of stuff. But he's grey. Now here in the south, of course, we don't get red squirrels. You do in Scotland and northern parts, but they've been eradicated here from the south and southwest and Midlands. Why? Because the grey squirrel is a better squirrel. You can argue it's not better, but it can survive, and it's hardier and it's tougher, etc. And it's forced the red squirrels out of the way, and they've been forced up north, a bit like the Romans and Hadrian's Wall, isn't it? But the point there is, or the metaphor, is that when something better comes along, it often takes over, and the collective defined contribution is probably better now. So let's talk about how it works. Now, for us to understand this, we need to go back to how the occupational pension scheme environment looks, or used to look. And there's always been two types of pension available to you. The first type of pension that's always been around, but although not for new starters now, is the defined benefit, or DB they call it. Defined, there you go, benefit scheme. Now the defined benefit scheme, they call it that because they call it that because it's just a good name. Was a great scheme for people that had been with companies for like years and years and years. That was the whole point behind it. And the whole point was that your boss, there you go, there's your boss, and you would pay in money, your hard-earned cash, into a fund, and the fund would be a massive great big fund here. Let's put a great big fund, and the fund would be everybody's money in this great big fund. It would be invested, etc., looked after. And when you retired, or when you reached retirement age, it was going to give you a guaranteed pension. That was the key thing there. So the guaranteed pension, let's put that there for you, guaranteed pension is going to give you. And that was a fraction. It was a calculation that they used. And the way it worked broadly is they took your years of service, years service. So how long were you in the scheme for? And they divided that by what they called an accrual rate. So for example, it could have been 60 or 80, and they did vary. So as you can probably appreciate, you're creating a fraction there, aren't you? So if you've been in there for like 30 years, you're going to get 30, 60, or half of your salary. And it was always times by your salary. Broadly speaking, there's many exceptions to that rule. Now, that particular scheme was pretty darn good. It was great for employees. So you have a big smile on your face. Let's get a red pen here. You've got a really big smile because sometimes you didn't even have to pay into it. Sometimes you did, depends on the scheme. But the employer, of course, would always put money into it. But they didn't particularly like this. So as time went on, they got a little upset about this because they didn't know how much they were able to put in. They didn't know how much they had to put in. And they did because they were offering this guarantee, this guaranteed pension. And this guaranteed pension, of course, meant that they had to pay in the difference. They were going to give you this pension, whether performance was dire or not. You made a contribution, which was preset. So they had to really pump money in. And when times were bad, performance was bad, they had to pump more money in. So that's why I put like the boss with an unhappy face. So if bosses are unhappy, what do? Well, they pull the scheme, don't they? They pull it for new entrants. And that's what they've been doing over the last 10, 20 years. Now, the other type of scheme has been available and has been more popular up until about now, really, and that's known as the defined contribution. So let's sneak that one in here, shall we? Defined, again, D-F, contribution. Now, what this means is that the contribution that is paid into the scheme is defined at outset. This one, of course, the benefit is defined at outset. But the defined contribution worked in a very different way altogether. However, you put money in, and your boss put money in. So there's your boss. They put their money in, and you would put money in to the scheme. You pay a percentage of your salary. Your boss would pay a preset percentage of your salary as well. And they liked that part, you see, because let's put a big smiley face there for the boss, because the boss felt that he or she, they could define how much they were paying in, and that was preset. They didn't have to increase it. They didn't have to decrease it. It was set in their budget. And companies like budgets, don't they? That's how they roll. And you put in as much as you wanted to. So it was good. But what happened here is that you had a pot. Let's keep the same color here. Your pension pot. This is your pot, by the way. There you go. As we call it. Your pension pot basically just grew in value with the money you put in, the money the boss put in, all the tax benefits, etc. And when the time came for you to retire, whenever that was, you then took whatever is in the pot and you bought yourself an annuity purchase. Now, an annuity or drawdown, doesn't really matter what you decide to do with the money. The fact was you could transfer it out and buy yourself an income. Now, that income was all completely determined by what was in the pot. And nobody ever really knew what was going to be in the pot until it came to retirement. By then, of course, it's probably a bit too late, isn't it? And that's the point about the defined contribution schemes. Sometimes called money purchase. These were sometimes called final salary. Now, we know that. You've done all that in your CMAP, but for you to understand the new scheme, we needed just to refresh that with you. So let's get a different color pen then. Let's get a nice green pen here. See if this one works on the video for you, because I want to give you like a contrast. Now, the new scheme is very different. I call it the CDC, the Collective Defined Contribution. So I'll put it here for you, the CDC, because we love an acronym, don't we? We just love an acronym. Now, the way this one works is, again, you put money in and so does your boss. So let's put your boss in there. So your boss is putting money in, you're putting money in. Okay, so no difference there. And that money goes into a pot in the same way. But the difference here is that the pot is everyone's money. all members are in this pot. So it's a bigger pot. Now, with a bigger pot, of course, they can make different decisions. There's more money. They can make better investment decisions, etc. So it's everybody's pot that it goes into. Now, what happens here, though, is very different. Is because when you come to retire, they have what's called a targeted pension. So, draw a little picture here for you. Oh, my little pictures. There's a target. They have a target income. So what happens here, you see, is this clever part, is that the actuaries or the AI, of course, the computers, work out how much you're putting in, how much your boss is putting in. They work out performance projections on past performance, how many years it is before you're going to retire, and they work out what it's going to achieve. It's kind of like a target. And if you want a little bit more, then obviously you pay a bit more in yourself and your boss pays a bit more, but it's always targeted. So you always know roughly what you're going to get when you retire. And the point here is if the target gets off target, say, for example, we had a couple of years of bad performance in the pot, in the growth of the fund, and you're off target, you're going to miss, then you get told that, and the company might do something with their contributions, and you might do something with your contributions. In other words, you might vary them, you might increase them, and that will bring you back on target again. So the great thing about this collective defined contribution is you've always got this lovely target to aim for, and if performance doesn't allow, you can then adjust your contributions as you go along. Of course you could have done it that one, but it's a bit more complicated. So this is actually quite a favored one. Now the bosses like this one, so let's put a big smiley face, because they know how much they have to pay in advance, and remember, they like that, they like to budget, and you're happy because you know roughly what your target is. You've got this idea about what it's going to achieve when you reach 60, 65 or whatever. So you're cool with that. And the boss, of course, if they want to, they could increase the contributions if you're not going to be on target. But as far as that's concerned, that's pretty much the way it works. The pot's a pot, it's got everyone's money in there. So it's a lot more balanced in the way it performs. It's a bit like a with profit fund, if you remember those things. With profit funds, of course, allow you to have a smooth return. So that's how they're trying to base it, really, because they want a long-term investment for you as well along the way. And this is the grey squirrel. This is the grey squirrel. It's better than the defined contribution. It's not better than defined benefit, but of course defined benefits aren't available anymore. They're gone. They're a bit like the red squirrel. They've gone up north. But this is the one they're favouring, and they reckon that there's going to be some big employers. Royal Mail have indicated they're quite keen to get this one for their staff, because they can see the benefits of having this targeted income and this massive pot. So collective defined contribution might be the way forward for occupational pension schemes. So you found that useful. Bye. There you go. We love it. We love a grey squirrel, don't we? We love a grey squirrel. Great work. Great work. Let's bring ourselves back over here, shall we? And we can move on to our next topic review. The pension schemes. As a mortgage advisor, are you ever going to advise them? No, you're not. But you might segue into equity release. You might segue into financial advisor. You should do, particularly with the downturn coming in. And if you're going to become a financial advisor or equity release advisor, you need to know what people are getting from their pension, because you might be looking at releasing equity on a property versus taking money from a pension pot, and you need to know the pros and cons. And there's a whole lot more to it than I've gone through on that video. That's enough for CMAP, of course, which is what we're teaching here at this stage. Let's move along from there, shall we? Let's get into our series on the recession, or the downturn, as we like to call it. Now, last week I gave you 4 strategies that you need to be putting into place in order to get through the downturn, really, as a mortgage advisor, because you can't sit still. That's the key thing there. You can't sit still. If you sit still, then you will struggle. That's the key thing about it. So I've got a couple of new ones for you. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to head over to my whiteboard, and I'm going to give ourselves a bit more room here so we can get ourselves comfortable. Now, remember, of course, the downturn, the recession, call it what you like, is going to happen. Whether it's an official recession or not, we don't know. But you're gonna have to change the way you do your business as a mortgage advisor. Remember, I've been through 5 recessions now. Crikey, that makes you sound quite old, but I have. And you understand what happens. You know what goes on in recession. You see things before, and it happens every time. This one's no different. So I've got 2 more advisor downturn strategies for you. Advisor downturn. That's an American term, by the way. Strategies. Here you go. And this is Mark 2. I've got 2 more for you. Now, the first one that I want you to consider now seriously is getting comfortable with your inner game. Now, I call it the inner game. It comes from Galway's book, which is all about tennis. It's all about how you manage your inner game, how you manage your mental side of things, your mental health. And that's really important. We had a pandemic a couple of years ago, and a lot of people's inner game was completely shot. You know, it just affected so many of us. And this one, or downturn, may well affect you too. Because you've probably been used to good times. You know, let the good times roll, man. Let them come in. Because that's the way. You know, you've got an office, possibly with a phone, email, WhatsApp, and the inquiries were probably flowing in, referrals, clients busy, etc. That's going to grind to a halt. So you've got to be able to make sure that you're good at getting business in. Now, your inner game may struggle. First of all, you want to think about anxiety, because you will feel anxious. So you need to be able to handle anxiety. You need also to prevent yourself from getting negative. Now, I'm not going to go sort of, positive mental attitudes aren't the way forward, but they are. If you start getting negative and you start bumping into people or brushing time with negative people, they'll feed off of you and you'll feel negative about everything. And it's good to have a positive attitude. Obviously, I'm fearing the downturn like everybody else. Of course, I run a business, but I'm seeing it as opportunities. I'm seeing the opportunity to change, alter, adapt, help people, of course, through the session themselves, change the topic I teach, change the products that we put together, and get through it that way, really. I kind of not excited about it. It's going to be hard work, but I want to make sure I get through it, and that gives me a bit of extra adrenaline. And I can, and I will. And you'll do the same if you can adapt those various changes as well. Now, when it comes to dealing with negativity, the one thing you've got to be careful of is you want to stop looking at too much media. You want to reduce your media consumption. Now, media is online nowadays, of course. We're talking about the BBCs, ITVs, Sky, but you're also talking about social media as well. You will see a lot of negativity coming your way via the media because they love it, don't they? The only way they can get your attention is to go all dangerous and scary. And because there's 24/7 media now, news, everyone wants your eyeballs. They will try and get your eyeballs by scaring you. It'll say something like, devastation, or, gas bills up to £6,000 per annum. And they'll have all these scary things. And if you consume too much of it, you'll get scared yourself. You'll get this negative, you'll get anxious. I'm not saying you shouldn't watch the news, of course not, but watch it when you want to. Maybe pick up on the news once a day at 10 o'clock or something. Try not to use too much social media to get your news, because, again, people make the news themselves. The other thing as well to think about when it comes to your inner game is to stop comparing yourself with others. Stop comparing yourself with other people, because, again, that doesn't give you any value. People do, and I understand benchmarking, top performers and all those good things. But if you go on LinkedIn, for example, you'll get all the dudes that are just having a great time. There was once a couple of years back when the financial crash was going on, and this fella went on LinkedIn right in the heat of the financial crash. The mortgage market had just dried up completely. And he comes onto LinkedIn and he's on a train and he said, recession? What recession? I've never been busier. And that's great. But because I read this thing and I felt really cheesed off when I read that. Oh God, I'm not doing so well here. So be careful of comparing yourself to people that come overall positive. Then they will. They'll come on with their car and saying how great they are and how successful they are, and all their lovely children, the family, and success breeds success. Look at me, kind of thing. And a lot of it's bragging. A lot of it's just to get attention. People are like that, and you just got to accept the fact that that's how people roll. If they are, ignore them, unfollow them if you want to. You don't have to unlink them, but unfollow them to stop seeing their ridiculous posts. So be careful of comparing yourself as well. The last thing you might want to consider, if you have time, and that is to consider paying back. Now, paying back actually helps you with your inner game because it makes you feel good. It makes you feel as though you're worthwhile. Now, what I'm talking about here is one skill that a mortgage advisor has is she's very good at calculating affordability, talking to customers about affordability, because we're arranging loans, aren't we? A lot of people will have affordability struggles at the moment with the gas crisis, the energy crisis, cost of living, etc. And many people are struggling with that, trying to make things work. Now, you can, if you wanted to, if you had the time, to volunteer your services to various organisations, Citizens Advice Bureau maybe, Money and Pension Service, or any other service where volunteers are looked for, where you can actually help people with their affordability. Go on the phones for a couple of hours a week if you want to, and talk to people about what they can afford, what they can't, what they can stop, what they can, because you're good at affordability conversations. Now, we intend to do that. We intend to help with people because we can pay back. You may not have the time, and I get that, but it's something that will make your inner game feel good. And there ain't nothing wrong with that, because we're humans, and the inner game is really, really important. So that's strategy number 1 for today, strategy number 5 in total. Let's give you the last strategy now and see if you like this one as well. Now, this is what we call pipeline. Pipeline. There you go. Pipeline business. Now, this may well feel to you like an alien thing. Now, when we say pipeline, these are the people, the clients, that are going through your prospecting pipeline before they get to your sales process, where you do your first call, second call, fact find, etc. So they're not in a position to buy or to be handled by your good self. It's a prospecting pipeline. It's a sales term. You put people into your pipeline, they come out of the pipeline, it's like a funnel, ready to deal with you and handle you because they're looking to buy a house or whatever it is. Now, the point about your pipeline now, if you've ever had one, is that you will find that customers, clients, or before they become clients really, take a long time now before they make a buying decision. Recessions and downturns make people wary of risk. Of course it does. And therefore they're going to be careful about making decisions. So, for example, you might be talking to somebody who's been referred to you because they are a jolly good person to talk to about mortgages, and you might have a chat, and they might be thinking of moving house. Now, in a good times, of course, they would probably be putting their house on the market following week, etc. But not now. They're going to wait. They're going to wait for a while because they need to have a look at see how the economy is panning out. Let's have a look at what next year brings. Let's take a look at our affordability when we've had our gas bill come in, or the cost of living, etc. See if we get a pay rise now because we're trying to get some increase in our salary. We're going out on strike soon or whatever. People take time to make any decision. So you will have a much longer pipeline, a longer prospecting pipeline. Prospecting is the phrase we use. By the way, you've got to get good at prospecting now. You may not have to bother up to now, but you've got to get darn good at that. So there will be a massively long pipeline. In other words, you just have to keep in touch with people all the way through. We talk about touch points when it comes to pipeline business. I'll talk about that another time with you if you're interested. A touch point is where you make contact with the potential customer. Be via email, phone, social media, whatever it is, it's touch points. And touch points vary according to how many you need to do before you get them into your sales process. And on average, it's about 14 at the moment in the downturn. So you got to think about how many times you make contact with people during their thinking stage as they get closer and closer to want to buy your property. Now, the only way you can do that is you can't rely on memory. Unless you've got a pretty good memory. I don't think you have. What you got to do here now is you've got to get your CRM system working for you. And the CRM is a customer relationship management software. You've probably heard of it before, CRM. You may even have one. If you are a member of a network or you're an AR of a principal, they would have given you one. But it's not what I'm referring to here. Their CRMs are where you get your new client, you put their details on, you then fact find them, their details grow, you then do a sourcing, their details grow even further, you find the right lender, their details get transferred to the lender's application, you can do online credit search, etc. It's an all-in-one system, taking the client from day one to completion of whatever it is you're doing for them. And they like to keep tabs on it because they're responsible for your business. That's fine. But a CRM, you see, is probably better used now to track clients before they become a client. So what you might want to think about here is when you're doing your prospecting, when you're getting good at prospecting, as generating new business, you have a CRM that monitors people's progress. So as soon as you start to bring people into your pipeline, you put them on your CRM, and you have like your prospecting process going on there, and you put them in the stages. And when you send them emails, there's a copy of it. When you talk to them on the phone, there's a copy of that because you recorded it. There's all sorts of information about the touch points, and it shows you how many people are in your funnel. Because we're talking here about a funnel, a sales funnel. Let's just put a little funnel there for you. We're talking about a sales funnel. And the whole point behind the sales funnel is that new potential customers go into your funnel. However they do that, that's another day conversation. They go into your funnel. In times of recession or downturn, that length of that funnel just gets longer and longer. That's the problem, you see. It's longer and longer. So the CRM system just tracks where these people are in your funnel. That's all it does. So you can see at a glance where they are. So if they phone you up out of the blue, you can have a quick, look them up and realize that you've spoken to them then, you sent them this email, etc. And you've kept in touch, you sent this webinar invitation, etc. You know what's going on. You can't do memory. Memory won't work for you there, but the CRM is definitely one. If you're looking for a really good one, there's a great one called Capsule CRM, which is brilliant. We use that one. It doesn't cost much. You can get government subsidies for this, by the way, to help you along the cost of that. So that's something you definitely do need. So manage your pipeline is strategy number 2. I hope that's been useful. There you go. Alrighty, let's pop back over here, shall we? And say our farewells to you. I hope your week's been good. You might be on holiday. You might not. You might be sort of getting busy. Remember to be careful of the news in September, because lots of things are changing. Remember to be careful of the media. Don't let it bring you down, man. Because bad media, negative media will bring you down. And you don't want to have that at all, do you? We're all good here. We've got quite a busy September coming up with lots of prospecting, lots of things happening. We're providing a ton of value to you as much as we possibly can. And all these strategies we've been talking about, we're bringing in some new services and products which will help you with those as well. Looking to do a lot more prospecting training to mortgage advisors, helping them to manage their sales process as well. No live stream next Monday because it's bank holiday. Because people are off, so that's the way it is, I'm afraid. But we'll be back the following week, which I think is, was it 6th of September or something? So it'll be autumn before we even know, won't we? Other than that, have a great week, everybody. Great to see you again, and see you again soon. Bye for now.